Hey, Clutterbugs, welcome back to the Clutterbug podcast. Today, we're actually going to have an interview later on in this podcast with Natalie Callahan from Designed to the Nines. She is an interior decorator and a DIY champion, and I'm excited to talk with her. She's a fellow YouTuber, and she's going to share some great tips with us of easy ways that we can do little DIY projects to make us beautify our home and love our home a little bit more. We're also going to be talking about fall, how to implement some easy fall decor. But before we jump into that interview, I really want to talk about, I guess, I want you to realize that this might not be your thing and that that's okay. There are a lot of people who like the idea of having a fall centerpiece or putting out a bunch of pumpkins, or maybe you don't even like the idea, but you don't have that big of a clutter threshold right now. So adding more to your plate, something you have to move off your table before you go and sit down to dinner, or even just adding decorating onto a very busy schedule, that might not be your season of life right now. And so if you're listening to this podcast and you think that that seems redonkulous and not something that you're like, I have enough going on, I don't want to add more stuff to my plate, I get it. I get it, and I've been there. So I guess I want to talk about the transition from somebody who could not possibly handle doing this type of stuff. I was just trying to get through my day and get my dishes done and the laundry done, to where I am now, which is in my spare time, I'm now able to really dedicate more time to feathering my nest, and why I think it is really important to focus on this if you have the capacity to do it. So when I first started my decluttering journey, my getting organized journey, decorating for the seasons was like not even an option. Of course, putting up a Christmas tree and decorating for Christmas was something I wanted to do, but I didn't have a clear flat surface. So the idea of putting out pumpkins or Easter decor, I thought it seemed ridiculous. And I wasn't even into like throw pillows and decor things like that because my couch was usually filled with clothes and dirty laundry. I didn't see my house as a beautiful space. And when I thought about, I guess, redecorating a space, I thought that that meant painting the walls. I couldn't see the beauty of my space because all I saw was clutter. And I know, even though I was so clutter blind, I didn't even realize that the clutter was really the problem. It was really hard for me to see my house anything other than a place that has to be taken care of, like a storage facility for my stuff, basically. And when I started my decluttering journey and my organizing journey, and my house started to feel emptier, it almost felt wrong in the beginning, going from such a really full space to a space that had a lot less stuff, felt a little bit shocking. And then it felt, it's kind of empty. It was easier to manage, and my life I was happier, I was less stressed, but I felt like there was really something missing. And so I started adding more little decor things like throw pillows or new artwork or flowers on my table, little things like that, which for some reason, it was almost like a creative outlet for me. Like a little hobby, but also it made my space feel less sparse and stark and hospital-like. So I guess if you're coming from a place where you're still living with a lot of clutter and a lot of excess, it's really hard to see the impact of a centerpiece on a table if everywhere around is also filled with stuff. But if you're coming from a place where your home is it's pretty minimal, it's under control, everything's put away behind closed doors, or even if you're a visual organizer, it's put in a way that doesn't feel like visual clutter and excess, a thing like a centerpiece or some pumpkins or, decorating your mantle is going to have a really big impact. So we're not going to talk about decluttering today. We're not going to talk about organization. We're going to talk about the joy of feathering your nest when you get to a place where your home is feeling even semi under control. It doesn't have to be perfect, but getting to a place where you have the capacity and the clutter threshold to add a little extra to your space, to freshen it, to change it up, so that you can fall in love with your home a little bit more.
I'm feeling so inspired, Natalie. Thank you so much for being here. Welcome.
Oh, thank you so much. I am so happy to be here. I love what I do, and I'm glad that you enjoyed what you saw. So,
Yeah, I wanted to run out and just start fall decorating. Tell me a little bit about yourself and tell the listeners where they can find you on YouTube as well.
okay, so I mean, a little bit about myself. Um, there's like all the obvious stuff. I am a mom. I have 3 kids. I live in the Central Florida area. And I love to DIY and do design, obviously. And you can find me over on YouTube at Design to the Nines. So, and over there, we're going to be doing stuff like DIY, everything from small projects to big projects, because my goal is to really try to promote people to get outside their comfort zones and push themselves a little bit and discover how truly amazing everybody is. Because as I end every video, I say, you are more powerful than you know. And I truly believe that because I just feel like sometimes we get in our own ways. So,
I love that. I really feel that there's something very powerful about DIYing something. I am not a very handy person, but
I
even
don't
painting
believe that.
something, even making a simple craft,
Right.
there's so much pride behind that. And I have a lot of my listeners when I show DIYs or something, or do little crafts, they say, "Oh, I wish I was crafty." And I feel like this is something that I used to feel too. And when you get out of your comfort zone and actually attempt some of these things, it's really quite magical. Were you
Absolutely.
always a handy person?
No, well, I mean, I was lucky enough that my mom exposed me to a lot of things when I was younger. And so it made me just somewhat curious, I guess. But as far as like being trained in it, that's why I'm such a huge proponent of getting brave and maybe breaking out a power tool or so. Because the thing is I had no idea that I could do some of the stuff I did until I just started trying. And I'm like, what's the worst thing that could happen? It doesn't work out, you know? And then I got a little bit braver each time. And that's why I just feel like anybody could do it. If I can do it, I feel like anyone can do it. And like you said, people say, oh, I wish I could do that. I wish I could. I'm like, you can. You just have to start small and then build up, and you can totally get there. I promise you. So,
Yeah, I love that. I started sort of DIYing out of necessity. I wanted a nice place, but I had no money. So I remember picking
exactly.
like tables out of the trash and
Exactly.
refinishing them and discovering the power of chalk paint, which I am addicted to now because you don't have to
Yes.
sand or prep. And
Yes.
then I learned, I wanted curtains and throw pillows, but didn't have any money. That stuff is expensive. Like as an adult, why is that type of stuff so expensive?
I
So
know.
I started doing all these little DIYs. I learned how to sew kind of sort of.
Exactly.
And now
I'm
even
a
though I
huge.
could afford those type of things,
uh,
it's not the same level of pride when you walk into a space and you
Right.
see something that you've created, even if it
Totally.
isn't perfect.
Totally. I couldn't agree with you more. I think a lot of my desire to start in DIY was similar to yours, as being just absolutely broke, but still wanting a beautiful environment. And I'm like, well, you know, I'm reasonably capable. Maybe I could, if somebody else can do that, maybe I could try and see what happens. And it's true. There is just a sense of pride. And I think that like it's in all of us. I think that there is this innate desire to create something that didn't exist before, or to take something that is maybe less desirable and make it desirable. And when you fulfill that like innate desire to create, then the satisfaction of that is even a bigger payoff than the savings themselves, like the actual dollar amount. The payoff for me is going into a room that I have like literally touched every part of and know that like all of the blood, sweat, and tears, that's the payoff. And I agree with you like 100%. Like We concur.
Yes. It's scary though. It's scary. And you are an interior designer and the spaces you make are gorgeous. But there are people listening who they're overwhelmed. They're not loving their house the way it is. And the idea of making over a space seems time consuming and expensive, and they don't know where to start. And I get that. And I feel that I have I'm a huge fan of doing little decorations for the season. And I know a lot of people will say, well, that seems like excess clutter. You're Clutterbug. You're supposed to be decluttering, or that seems like a waste of money. And it's very foreign to them. But I really hear this is us. I'm going to ask you with me to help
Okay.
try to convince people of
Yeah.
doing small little things like a fall centerpiece or a fall wreath because of the magical thing that happens when you feather your nest, when you love your space, when you do a small update, even if it's a $5 centerpiece from the dollar store, it has an impact on your soul. Is that a weird thing to say? But I
Not
truly
at all.
feel that way.
No, not at all, because I could not agree with you more, because I think if we look at the huge picture of things, yeah, it can get overwhelming, but what can you do right now? And it really does start by doing something little. And then you get a little bit of courage and that turns out and it's beautiful. And you're like, well, maybe I can do that. And so then you attempt something just a tiny bit bigger, and it's like line upon line, and then it adds up, and then all of a sudden you're taking on projects that maybe would have initially scared you, and it all starts with a small thing. So I couldn't agree more. Create like one small area that really makes your heart happy, and it's going to lead you to a whole, like, it's going to become addictive, and it's going to lead to other things.
It really is. And I also see that when you love your home in that way, with a little DIY, with a little sort of decorating of a space, it also makes you want to keep it tidier. It motivates you to care
Yes.
more for your space. So if your kitchen table is always covered in papers and your kids' stuff and it's a total disaster,
Yes.
creating a centerpiece can
Yep.
make you want to keep it clear and make that a priority for you. And people say every time you go to eat, you have to move the centerpiece off the table. And we do. And I realize that's a pain, but having something beautiful on my table that I made means I'm not setting papers down on it. Means I'm not.
Yep.
Do you know what I'm
It's so true.
saying?
Yes, I know exactly what you're saying. So if I have like a problem room that's always like getting all the clutter, I know like that's the next room I need to work on. But like starting small, that is so true. And like as far as a centerpiece, sometimes I leave it on the table when we eat dinner because why not enjoy it? And obviously if it gets in the way, put it on a tray with handles, put it aside and then take it back. It makes it easier. But yes, anytime I found that I beautify something, I will take more pride in that area and I will want to make it more organized. But I have a lot to aspire to you in the whole organization area. I'm not the best organizer on the planet, but I do find that principle is true, that if you've taken the effort to beautify it, then you're more likely to keep it cleaner and less cluttered. So
I mean, I have decor clutter. I'm going to be honest, because it is addicting to feel that good, all the positive stuff that comes. So I'm always like, I have so much Dollar Tree fall things. Yet yesterday I was back at the Dollar Tree, like maybe
oh
they have
yep,
something else. So
yep.
it's awful. But as a hobby, I really do see this as a hobby. I look forward to the change of seasons because I look forward to changing my house. Decorating is expensive. I am not going to get new furniture and paint my walls and change new artwork and get new curtains on a regular basis. But
Right.
I can change a wreath on my door. I can change a centerpiece on my table or my mantle. I can change up little
Throw
things.
pillows.
Throw pillows, exactly. I just picked up 4 throw pillow covers for $11.99 for 4 from Amazon. And
I love it. Yes.
it's a small thing that you can do. So I want to hear your favorite ways of just feathering your nest, some simple things that people can do today, even to just make their home, to make them fall in love with their home a little bit more this fall.
Right. Okay. I agree. It's in the little details. It's in the throw pillows. Those are things that you can do relatively easy. If you have any experience in sewing, it's really simple to make a pillow cover. New throws, flowers, and like some sort of like, now I'm a serial plant killer, so most of the stuff you'll find in my house is faux, just because I don't want to have the guilty conscience of having killed another plant. So but even the faux stuff still brings a sense of life to your home, and it is those little touches that really bring out your personality. They should speak to your personality. You shouldn't just go copy someone else's because that's what you think you should do. You should really personalize it to what you love, because if you love it, that's all that really matters. It doesn't matter if your Cindy next door likes it or not, because it's your home, it's your space, and you need to love it.
Yeah. And it seems like, okay, well, what is this DIY? Do I have to buy supplies? This seems crazy pants. Sometimes it's getting a vase and some fake leaves and putting them in there. And I saw you did
Totally.
this really cool thing. You filled up a jar, like a jar of vase or vase with
Uh-huh.
what are those Halloween candies that are
Candy
disgustingly
corn.
horrible?
Yeah, that's,
Candy corn.
yeah,
And then
you
and
can
then
get it at
put
the
in
Dollar
some
Tree.
and then put in some faux fall leaves. It
Yeah.
was beautiful.
Oh,
And
thank you.
doing something simple like that, it costs a few dollars.
Right.
You would pay 50, 60, $70 for that at a home
Exactly.
store.
Exactly. Yeah.
And not only is it great, but every time you walk into this space and you glance at it, even in your peripheral vision, it it brings you a sense of pride and joy.
Absolutely does. And it's just thinking outside the box a little bit. Like I used faux fall leaves that I purchased, but that's only because I live in Florida and I can't get those readily. I mean, we might get a little bit of fall leaf change, but if you live in a place where the fall colors are beautiful, like I used to live in Maine, clipping the leaves off of a tree and putting them in the vase, and that's free. So you don't necessarily need to spend a lot of money. And that's like what I talk about on my channel all the time, is just really tapping into your inner creative abilities. And I think everybody has those. You just need to flex that muscle a little bit to get the juices flowing, so to speak. And yeah, when you create something with your own hands and your own creativity, doesn't matter what anybody else thinks of it, there is a sense of pride. And I love that. So I love what you're preaching here. Preach.
Preach it. Yeah. And we don't have to have a perfectly tidy home before we do these things. I
Right.
think there is this mentality like, oh, yes, I'll decorate someday when my house is clean, when it's
Yes.
organized, when I've decluttered. And I feel like you don't have to do that. If anything, taking time to feather your nest, doing a small little, even rearranging furniture, let's be honest, can make you motivated to take your home to another level, can actually motivate you to get up
Mhm.
and start clearing clutter or vacuum the floor or
Yep.
do a little dusting, because you're I call it hugging your home. And when you
Yep.
hug your home, it hugs you back.
That is so good. I love that. That's great. Yeah, and I made a post on my community page the other day, and it really spoke to a lot of people, just in the fact that if you can't do a whole room, go do a small little corner in your room. If you can't make your whole room clean, start by making the bed, and just start with what you can do. Focus on that, because 1% of something is better than 0% of nothing. So, I mean, it's just start small. You don't have to do it all at once. like you
Yeah,
see on those shows.
you don't like you see on the show. Exactly. And that's overwhelming too, especially like I like doing projects that I can finish. I have ADHD, so I have like a 15-20 minute attention span, if I'm being honest with you. So
Yeah.
I need to do like, I'll make a throw pillow cover, or I'll do a centerpiece, and it has to be fast and easy. But all of
Yep.
those little projects add up to a home that you love, and a home that feels like a piece of you.
Mhm.
Everywhere I look in my home, I look around, I have beautiful pieces that I've purchased, but the things that give me the most just like good feelings are the stuff I found in the trash that I've painted and
Right?
fixed up, or the thing that I'm like, yeah, I remember making that with a power tool. I feel so
Yeah,
good. The things that I've created myself are
totally.
really what makes my home, to me, more beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah. It's because you're tapping into that inner desire to create that I think everybody has within them. So yeah, I love it.
Yeah. So, what room do you think people should really start in? Like, I am a big like I'm just like a big cheerleader for the bedroom. I think if your whole house is just not feeling the love, if you're not liking the space that you're living in, if you're feeling like what's the point? It's ugly anyways.
Mhm.
Let's put some lipstick on that pig.
Yeah.
But for me, it's about starting in the primary bedroom, because that's the first thing you see when you wake up and the last thing you see when you go to bed. And
100%.
it's mine. It's
Yeah.
mine. So that's the
Yeah.
space I really like to focus on. What's a space in your home that you think people should kind of make a priority to try to make a little bit more beautiful?
Honestly, I was 100% going to say the bedroom. And oftentimes it's what people focus on last because they're focusing on areas that people can see. But honestly, I was going to say the bedroom because you should have one space in your home that is your sanctuary. That's why I'm like recording in my bedroom. This is my sanctuary. I can shut the door and just be at peace. It's beautiful. I love it, and it is like a haven to me. And a lot of times it's forgotten because they focus elsewhere. But you're right. You spend a lot of time in your bedroom. Yes, some of it may be sleeping, but also it sometimes you just like as a busy mom, sometimes you need some quiet. You just go into your bedroom, shut the door. And so that should be an absolute sanctuary. You spend the most part of your life in your bedroom. So 100% agree, bedroom first. And then, I mean, I think the kitchen is the heart of the home. So I'd probably go to the kitchen next. So,
Yeah, we're on the exact same page. We totally agree. I'm actually redoing my daughter's room for her birthday. She's turning 14 and she wanted a double bed. So, of
nice.
course, we didn't have a frame. We got a new mattress for her, but I thought, what an opportunity as a birthday gift to do some small little things. But my budget for that is like $200. So I want to share some of the things that I'm doing. And if you have
Oh,
any
awesome.
advice for our listeners too, I would love to hear
Sure.
it. She wanted her room to be pink and like a sage green, but I didn't want to paint anything because I'm cheap and that's a lot of work. And it's her paint is completely fine.
Uh-huh.
I looked everywhere for something, bedding, something I could find, and I couldn't find anything. So I went to the fabric store and found beautiful fabric. It was $2 a meter.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? And it
I
had
love it.
sage green and pink flowers. And I was like, this is fantastic.
Yeah.
So I was able to purchase that and make curtains. I didn't even sew them. Listen, Natalie, I used the iron-on tape because I'm not
Hey,
washing
that
them.
works. That works.
And then was able to create a headboard out of a piece of wood and some batting with a coordinating fabric. And I mean, we're talking under $40 for curtains, a throw
I love
pillows,
it.
and a headboard and footboard. And I'm so proud. And I had her part of this, and I'm like, your room's gonna look so fab, but I'm also proud of doing it on a budget. So
Absolutely.
what are some other things, that little things that people can add to their bedroom that can
Yeah.
make it feel more luxurious without having to completely change or completely renovate their space?
Okay. Yeah. honestly, doing some sort of just one feature wall, maybe you don't want to paint the entire room, but doing one focal wall, you can do that relatively inexpensive. For example, on my wall here in my bedroom, now this is maybe more extreme than you even need to go, but budget wise, I did this boxed out paneling on my wall here. And because I did it myself, it was around $100. And so, but it just totally transformed the room and made it like a wow impacts piece. But then you could do peel and stick wallpaper that you're not committed to, that you just peel on the wall, stick, and if down the road you don't like it, the new stuff it pulls right off, and you can do something like that. So little things like that are really, really cool. So I recently did my boys' bedroom in an episode, and adding like a customized monogrammed letter above each one of their beds with like a hanging wall light that had a plug in. So I didn't need to do any electrical, but just doing something over each one of their beds really customized it. And, I did another focal wall there. I did like
I
faux
saw
brick.
the faux brick. It was so steampunk and
I know,
amazing.
and it was
so affordable.
Yeah, it was probably like less than $100 too, because I didn't spring for that extra sheet of brick. But no, it was like 150, but it totally transformed that room as well. So I mean, but you don't have to necessarily build stuff if that like is intimidating to you. You can do like just the monogrammed initials and a little special light, or peel and stick wallpaper, just something that when you walk in, you're like, wow, that's pretty cool. Because even if I didn't do the brick wall paneling behind their beds, just that little thing would have been, a nice little statement piece.
Yeah. Okay. Great. This is going to be fun. Let's talk about some design mistakes, because I feel like I am not an interior designer, but I've made some mistakes that have made my space feel like just off, if that makes sense. And one of the thing is I used to hang my artwork way too high, like up at the ceiling. What was I doing? Why so high? And I used to hang my curtain rods too low.
Yep. Those are common mistakes that I've even made in the past out of just being lazy, to be honest with you. But those are common things and they're easy to fix. You want to hang your curtains up higher so it lifts the height of the room. The artwork on the wall is too high. That's common. The other thing is, like going with too small a furniture. I mean, a lot of times you can go with larger furniture than you think, but then on the flip side, you can also go too big. And so it's just trying to find that balance. And so a good way to avoid buying furniture that's too big is just like taping it out on your floor, and go get the dimensions, tape it out on the floor, visualize it first, and go like, well, is this going to work or not? So yeah, those are just, but I would hesitate to really call them like full-blown mistakes, more like learning opportunities, because we learn from them, right?
We do. I think another thing that I used to do, and I see friends and family that are still doing this, and this is really normal. When we think about, okay, we have to redecorate a space, people often think that this means painting the walls. And so painting it a color. So my sister's a really good example. She's like, I really want to redecorate my living room. She loves purple. She painted her walls purple and immediately hated the entire space.
Yeah.
And I've learned from that too, keeping walls and expensive things like furniture really neutral.
That really totally just triggered that in me, because that was one of my biggest design mistakes was, when I was younger, I bought these sofas and they were red and they had yellow flowers all over them. And it was bold and loud. And I got sick of those couches so fast. So I always am preaching, go neutral on the walls, go neutral on the sofa, and you can bring in that color and all of the things you love. in throw pillows, in accessories, in artwork, things that you can easily switch out without having to go through a whole like ordeal.
Yeah, and I think go neutral on things like flooring and
Yep.
backsplashes, anything
Yep.
like that too. So my mother-in-law about 4
Yep.
years ago did a renovation, and she was like, there were these hand carved, they look like burnt floors. And at the
Yep.
time, that was
Mhm.
there was like, that's like so cool and unique. And then she went
Yep.
with this black glass mosaic count like backsplash, which again at the time, remember those glass backsplashes? I have one in my kitchen.
Yeah.
Regret,
Yes.
regret, because even though white subway tiles may seem boring,
Yeah. It's
going with
timeless.
something, it's timeless.
Yeah.
Timeless. So if
Timeless
you're
is
going to invest,
yeah.
neutral is the way to go. It's the same with gray. So gray was really hot and
Yep.
everything was gray.
Yep.
Gray floors, gray
Yep.
kitchens,
Yep.
gray walls,
Yep.
which now it's shifted to this warmer, back with that warm oak and that natural wood.
Yep.
And so that those classic warm neutrals,
Yeah.
I feel like are so timeless. I'm learning. I'm not an interior designer, but
No,
I'm learning
I love
that,
it.
yeah, a nice grayish, right?
Yes. So I am infamous for using Revere pewter, and it is the perfect shade of grayish
It is. My
because
whole house is Revere pewter too. Same seas. I feel like we're twinning right now. Yeah.
to a twin moment. Yeah, no, because what's awesome about it is if you wanted it to pull more gray, you could pull the gray out of it. If you wanted it to be more beige, you pull the beige out of it. But it's all about keeping things timeless. And the way you look at this is if it is really hot and trendy, look at back, in past decades. How did that, like white shaker cabinets? Those have been those are never going to go out of style, in my opinion, because they were popular in the 20s and they stood the test of time. Classic things that are not loud or obnoxious, just you need like kind of a neutral canvas, and then you have fun with the accessories, the art, the things that are not going to cost you a fortune, and just try to get a timeless look. And then if you want something a little bit more bold, yeah, it's in the smaller stuff.
Yeah, I love that. But it is a hard lesson. It was an expensive lesson for me to
Yeah.
learn, because when
Yes.
we think our first instinct is, okay, we're going to update this space. We're going to decorate this space. Well, I want it to be my style and I want it to reflect that. And I want it to be cool and unique and
Absolutely.
different. And so we think, oh, I want this really unique thing, or this floor, this bold backsplash. Ouch. Expensive lessons learned. When you grow
Yep.
tired of it, you're stuck with it. So I actually
Yep.
gel stained my entire house black. Oops.
Oh.
Oops. So
Yeah.
at the time, black kitchens and
Yep.
black was like it. And I'm so wishing that I would have went white, and I'm
Yeah.
craving white. But I
Hey,
guess
if it
that's
makes you feel better, my kitchen is like a dark espresso. I love a white kitchen, but I know this is not my forever home, and it most likely will be a rental. And I'm like, I am not having painted cabinets in here because I don't want to have to maintain that down the road. But in my next house, you better believe they're going to be painted white or something classic. I even painted my last kitchen's cabinets Revere pewter, and that's a timeless look too. It looks really good.
I love that. Yeah, I feel the same way. I'm like, this is not my forever home, and I don't
Yep.
want to maintain painted cabinets either. And I just
Yep.
keep dreaming of that white kitchen someday. But
Me
but
too.
that is, I guess, the point. Even when you're in a home that isn't ideal, that
Yep.
isn't perfect, that isn't maybe even something you love the aesthetic of,
Yep.
we can still love our home and make the best of it
Absolutely.
today in small little things. So even though I don't love my kitchen, I made a hot cocoa station yesterday in the
I
corner
love
and
it.
added some fall leaves. And now
I
when I
love
walk
it.
into the kitchen, that's what my eye is drawn to. That's what I look at that and I think, oh, I like this kitchen.
Absolutely. And it's because it's beautiful, it's fresh, it's new, and it's something that you'll probably rotate out in the next season or whatever. And yeah, it is. I agree. You don't have to love your whole home. I mean, who ever loves their entire home? My laundry room is scary. And I'm like, I just shut the door. So,
Shut the door.
but if there's little safe spaces and little areas that you really speak to your heart, you can still love your overall home. And I do. I love my home, even though I have a Monica closet and a laundry room that I just want to shut the door on. But I do. I love my home in spite of those imperfections and things that I don't love about it.
Yeah. So I'm hoping if you're listening that we have inspired you and not scared you. We're not talking about painting your whole house Revere pewter, but can you do a wreath this week? Can you create a fall centerpiece? Can you get some $11 throw pillow covers from Amazon and bring in a little fall into your home so that you can fall in love with your home this fall?
I love that.
I
That's
love that too.
beautiful.
Well, thank you so much for joining me. This was lovely and so fun. Please, again, let my listeners know how they can find you and watch your design tips and tricks and your DIY advice on your YouTube channel and on your website.
Absolutely. I had a blast. Thank you so much. You can find me over on YouTube by just putting in Designed to the Nines. And even though it says Designed to the Nines, it is definitely on a budget and budget friendly and hopefully relatable and doable. So thank you so much for having me on your podcast.
Thank you so much for being here. I appreciate it. And thank you all so much for listening. We'll see you guys next time.